Welcome to our second lesson of our first unit, section 1.3, operations on real numbers and order of operations. We're going to start by talking about adding and subtracting real numbers, something really basic but fundamental in understanding truly how positive and negative numbers interact with each other. And again, these are for real numbers, so this applies for integers, for fractions, decimals, whole numbers, rational and irrational values. When we're adding real numbers that have the same sign, either they are both positive or they are both negative, then we want to add the absolute values and attach their common sign. So we want to think same sign, add, and keep. And so we've got a couple examples here that count as adding. And so we can see the first one is adding with the same sign. The magnitude of these values is different, but the sign associated with them is the same. And so what we want to do is we want to take the magnitude and we want to add those together. We're going to add the magnitude, and then we're going to keep the sign that's associated with them. So we get a larger magnitude, negative 19. Now, when we have different signs, meaning that the first one's positive and the second one's negative, or the first one's negative and the second one's positive, we want to subtract the absolute values, and then we want to assign the sign of the larger magnitude. Okay, and so with subtraction, we want to think different signs, subtract, and keep the larger. Okay, it's different signs, subtract, and keep the larger. So here we have the two different signs and different magnitudes, and so we're going to subtract the absolute value, and then we look and see that negative 9 has the larger value, so we will keep the sign associated with that, leaving us with negative 5. Here we've got addition, again, different signs, so we want to go ahead and subtract the two. And then the magnitude of 21 is larger, so we will keep that as being positive. It'll give us a positive 6. So again, with decimals and fractions, it's the same thing. We see that we have addition with the same sign. So we will add the two magnitudes together, and then we will keep the sign of both of those values, negative 11.4. We have subtraction here, different sign, or I'm sorry, we're doing subtraction. And what I want you to think about with subtraction is not its own operation. It is very closely related to addition. It is essentially different sides of the same coin. We refer to subtraction as inverse addition. Okay, as a way to think of it, inverse addition. Okay, so when we subtract, it's actually adding the inverse. And so what we do is we switch the sign of the second number, and we'll change the subtraction to addition. We want to add the opposite. So a minus b becomes a plus whatever the opposite of b was. If b was positive, make it negative. If it was negative, make it positive. So we have 2 minus 11. We want to think of this instead as 2 plus negative 11. And then we follow our addition rules and say, okay, well, the magnitude of 11 is larger, so our answer will be negative. And then we will go ahead and subtract because their signs are different. So 11 minus 2 to give us 9, and it is negative. We add the opposite, and so then we have negative 4 plus 2. Different signs, subtract and keep the larger. With our fractions, we just need to make sure we have our common denominator. In this case, we would have a common denominator of 6, so we want to rewrite this as negative 4/6 minus 3/6. We change this to adding the opposite, and then we add our numerators, negative 7/6. And then we add the opposite, and we get a nice straightforward addition, which gives us 10.3. So we'll explain more about the order of operations, but we can see how this applies when we simplify expressions. We don't have to worry about what do I do first, addition or subtraction, because if we remember that subtraction is just adding the opposite, we can rewrite these as addition problems, and we see that we can just solve these and work through these from left to right. We don't have to worry about which operation comes first because it's all addition. So we have 11 plus 2 to give us 13, plus negative 7 gives us 6. Negative 5 plus negative 4 is negative 9, plus 2 gives us negative 7. We have 13 plus 5 to get 18, plus negative 6 to give us 12. And then we have negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8, plus 4 gives us negative 4.